Hello and welcome to episode 1011 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Tuesday, February 8th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon by Justin Mason. Justin, good day, sir.
I like how you switched it up there, like afternoon instead of you were about to say this
I knew.
morning.
I was preparing.
It's
I was
still
ready.
technically morning for me for
For
5 more
you,
minutes.
yes. But it is, we are starting a little later than normal. So it's afternoon for me. We got time limit. We're on task. So we're jumping
Mm-hmm.
right in. We're doing potential leapers on the mound today. We talked about a bunch of mid-round guys last time out that are hitters who could make a potential leap and kind of hit that next level, hit a new level of stardom. Today we got a bunch of starters, 5 different individual starters, then a 4-pack from a given team, and then 4 relievers who are going in that same range there. And by the way, I'll set you up right now for that closer one. If your answer is none, that's fine, because at this level of closer, these are the guys that can go either way. Like, remember when we drafted Camilo Duvall here and he's the 6th inning guy? Or remember when you got Scott Barlow there and he has 32 saves? So I think they can go either way. So feel free to answer none on the closer one if that's your actual answer. But first, we were talking about something offline, and I said something to you about where a player had gone, and then you countered with where somebody else had gone, and then you said you think this guy's a first rounder.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I adore this player. This is one of my literal favorite players in the league. His first round, it was about Ozzy Albies. Now, the interesting thing is I can hear, even though it's weird how the time-space continuum works, because people who are groaning have not heard this yet, and yet I can already hear them groaning because there's an Ozzy Albies anti-contingent out there, and they just rolled their eyes when I said that.
Do they still exist? Because they've taken so many L's.
That's the thing. They're so difficult to find these days.
Yeah.
Greg Blankenship, I'm looking at you, my man.
Was the Siege the other one?
Siege, yeah. Where you at, dog?
Yeah.
I give him a little razz after the end of the year. Nothing too, it's all friendly. We had a little back and forth there on Albies at the beginning of the year. Some of those are going to come back around every time you have some March disagreements. If you come out the wrong way on some of those, they're going to come back to you in October. So, of course, I had to do a little tweak at the end of the year after they had gotten all over Albies. But it's a 30-20 season, Justin. 30-20, 100, 100. And the 259 average, we say it all the time, not as awful as it feels normally, because averages have lowered. So that 259, not going to sit here and tell you it's great, but it certainly wasn't hurting you. And we know that there's average upside with Albies because he's a career 273 guy who's hit as high as 295. And so the reason I've always loved Albies, power, speed, high end of the order for lots of runs, dropped 100 ribbies. That is slept on. 86 in 2019, by the way. And then the 30-20, like it's just such a strong line. Is 25-year-old Ozzy Albies a viable first rounder?
I think he is. Maybe the power regresses a little bit and he's more of a 25-20 guy.
Okay. I can live with that.
I think if that happens, it's going to be because his batting average comes back up. So he did sacrifice a little bit of contact for the added power.
Yeah.
So I think that was a conscious decision on his part. But we're talking about a guy who just went 30-20 and is 25 years old. I mean,
yeah.
The more and more I think about it, because you and I are in a draft right now that's moving super, super, super slow.
It's fine.
It's not that bad. It's not as bad as the other draft I'm in.
It's going at a medium pace. It's not going very fast, but it's not crawling either.
Yeah, the first day was a little brutal, but it's picked up today.
Yeah.
So I had pick 11. And when it got to me, Kyle Tucker was like the only guy left in my queue, right? Everybody in my queue had gone after putting 11 names in there. But I kind of wonder if Ozzy Albies is a better pick than Kyle Tucker.
And everyone is pretty in on Kyle Tucker as someone down at the turn there for sure, myself included. But you bring up this Albies thing, and again, I tout myself as a big-time Albies guy, and yet I hadn't considered that because you said somebody took him at 10 in the draft. And I said, 10? Why do that, though? Just get him in the second round. I think you're right that that's your last chance to get him. So if you like him enough, to the point, the spur of this discussion was Rafael Devers going 9 in my league. I think it's the same sort of thing, different profile. So we're not arguing Devers versus Albies so much. We're arguing more if you want that guy and you pick 9 or 10, which is where the person who picked Devers is, and I am. That's your last chance to get like a Devers, or an Albies. And so it feels, I think people are very uncomfortable to jump out and get their guy like that. And yet I think the best players are very comfortable to do that, even if it ends up being a mistake, even if they ended up jumping. But that was the guy they were confident. They didn't just take who the ADP said. This is going out and actually getting your guy and saying, Devers is my dude. He's 341, 110 is what, Jeff Barton maybe thinks. And that's why he's going for him. He thinks he's Vlad. He's like Vlad Jr., just a little bit worse than Vlad Jr. And so he's going to get him. If I take Albies here at 10, I think it is my last chance to get him. I see nothing wrong with possibly doing this.
And I think one of the things we need to stop doing as much, because I know I fall into this trap, is like, oh, the market says that this guy isn't a first rounder, and that I can get him in the second round.
That's just a misuse of ADP, which we always say not to do.
And it is. And if you believe that a guy is a first rounder, then you also believe that the market is wrong on a number of different players. And it's likely there will be another one of your first rounders in the second round.
Yeah.
Go get the guy who is the guy you prefer. And not that I was ever down on Albies. I've been an Albies guy, I think, since the beginning.
This has been a very pro Albies pod dating back to Ino. Ino put me on him, and I ran with that. I always credit Ino as the Albies guy, but I joined that train the millisecond he drove by me with it.
And so, I mean, I think I haven't been wanting to put him in the first round, and I think that's a mistake. And I think moving forward, he is in that kind of middle to back half of the first round conversation with guys like Kyle Tucker, with some of the pitchers I would be taken back there. Because honestly, I would take him over Bryce Harper. And Bryce Harper is securely going in the first round.
Firmly a first rounder. Yeah. And I love Bryce Harper too. And I think that's where I'm at now too. And you talk about Tucker, and he's somebody who can range as low as 20. So he's in that same movement there. And again, we don't see Tucker in the same way we see Albies, and I think that's wrong. I think you're right to suggest that the similarities there are substantial.
I think that Tucker
and second upside.
I think, yes and no, but I think Tucker his upside is greater. Like, I think there is a potential for like a 40-20 kind of season in Tucker, with a good batting average. But I think the floor is a lot safer with Albies. Cuna's going to be back. I think we all, in spite of the Freddie Freeman rumors going, of him, of Mark making the run, I think we all kind of assume that he's going to be back in Atlanta. He's going to hit on top of that lineup in that park. I think that floor is so much safer. And
the one part of that, but why is it safer? Kyle Tucker, excellent play skills, breakout season, age 24, same age, going to be age 25.
Just track record.
Elite lineup. I know he's got a longer track record.
Going to be hitting 6.
Tucker's a premier prospect too. He's only hitting 6. No way.
Yeah.
They got no.
Look at roster resource, buddy.
That's a projection.
If they keep the lefty righty, he may be batting.
He should be batting second.
Get
out of here.
I agree. I completely agree. But that's not where they had him last year. So we either go by projection or we go by what they were doing.
Where did he bat last year? Did he bat 6th?
Yeah, he bat 6th and 7th pretty much all year.
That's disgusting.
So, and as much as that may change,
he's got to move up. Yeah, he's got to move up.
It absolutely may change. And, this is why it's a little bummer that we're not getting spring training probably as early as we normally do, because spring training lineups would be it'd be the way for us to go, oh, look, they've got the full lineup in there today on March, 17th, and it's, Tucker batting second. Or Tucker batting 4th or whatever.
That would give us some. I think it's 2nd or 6th, though. I think Alvarez at 4 makes a lot of sense. So that is something. Again, I would still push back that the floor is much higher. I think Tucker has a very stable floor. Love what Albies does, though. I just think they're neck and neck. I'm less about splitting them one way or the other. I'm saying more they're neck and neck. And I used to see Tucker as being a little bit of a cut above, even though they've been going in the same range. Like Albies has gone in a few first rounds. He's about 2 picks lower than Tucker on the ADP here. Let's see, Tucker. Oh well, a little bit lower than that with the average, because Tucker's range is as high as 5 since January 1st. So I think it's something to consider if you are picking back in the latter half of the first round and you love Ozzy Albies. That number 1 pick might be your only chance to get him. And with the production that he's put up, I think he has number 1 viability. He's a workhorse who's played, 684 plate appearances each of the last 3 full seasons. Doesn't strike out, can take a few walks there. Batting average, upside, power, speed, excellence.
And I mean, here's my other argument for it. So let's say you are drafting, for instance, I drafted 13 as a draft. I ended up doing a pocket aces just because I wanted to try it out. But let's say I was deciding between, I want Albies and I want a pitcher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I can take Scherzer at 13 or whoever my target is at 13, and then hope Albies gets back, or I can just take Albies and know there's about 3 or 4 or 5 guys who are going to be available in the second round. There's going to be Wheeler's going to be there, Bueller's going to be there. It's likely Scherzer's going to, one of those guys at least is going to make it to me. They may not all make it to me, but one of those guys at least is going to make it to me. So there is no other Albies,
exactly.
Right? Like
unless you think Altuve is going to start stealing again, which I don't rule out that he can, put some more steals up than is expected, but I think Albies is the better bet for another 20.
There is no like second round corollary for Albies.
Yeah.
Plus, if you wanted, you could start Albies and then take Mullins and just blow your draft out of the water.
You don't draft Mullins in the second round. I think that's been proven.
I'm so angry.
I think that's been proven.
So angry.
Look, I realize it's a little, he's better in the third round if you can get him there, obviously. But I don't have a problem. I talked about this on, we did the whole meme yesterday because you didn't take him in the second round there to go Tucker Mullins. So I took him at my pick 9 in the second round. And, people want to be like, well, what about the projection? Like, let's memes aside. What's the deal with that pick? It's like, it is a little bit high, but I believe in the projections. I'm surprised by some of these number outputs here of like, why is, and it has to go with my knowledge of understanding how projections work and they're put together, but I don't understand how the ATC dollar value is like $16 and then the HQ one is 30. And then the stats between the two are so limited in differences. And I understand it's like what the adjustments are and all that, but like, how is it that far off? Because I look at the projections on our site. None of those bother me if I get that from Mullins. And I know he has the upside to drop another 30-30. And I'll take my 2020 as kind of a baseline type of deal. Not a floor. The floor is still lower than that, but as a baseline expectation, give me the 20-something that all of the projections have. But why is that $15 on our auction calculator and 30 for HQs?
What does HQ have his average at?
Let me pull it up. But like, it's not, I think it was a few points higher, like 269, but that's not enough for half the price.
It's probably a combination of the average and the RBIs, would be my guess.
No, because their RBIs and runs are lower in HQ. Wow. It's a 269 average. So it is, ATC was what I was looking, or was what we were quoted in that tweet. That's
but 8 points is a lot.
Not for $14. No,
it's not.
I refuse. Especially when the runs and ribbies are lower in HQ than ATC. The only key difference in favor of HQ is a 8-point boost in average. That can't be $14 of value. I know it has to be the way the dollars are calculated, but that is such a stark difference. I think we need. Maybe I just need to get the knowledge myself.
If you look at ATC's projections, and I tweeted this out yesterday, there are 4 players who are projected to have 20 or more home runs and 25 or more stolen bases.
So how's that only $16?
I don't know.
That's such a rare commodity, though.
This idea that we should be fading Cedric Mullins because coming off a huge year, my buddy Bubba Entrikin was all, I don't want to pay for it coming off the huge year. I'm like, you can't find that projection, right? And
True. I will say
just
this in defense of Bubba's notion. Simply fading last year's breakouts is a perfectly viable strategy. You will not go broke off of it. Some of them will stay great. Robbie Ray may stay great. Cedric Mullins may stay great. But if you just fade them, that is a winning strategy. If you just avoid them. Yeah, I know you're shaking your head. Why isn't it? Regression always wins. If you overall just avoid paying the premium,
it's a
on the
lazy
guys,
strategy, to be honest. It's a lazy strategy. It's it's not doing your due diligence in terms of realizing why these guys broke out or why they didn't, or
I think that's
why they
too.
will regress.
I think that's too severe.
And I don't think I'm not calling Bubba lazy. If he's
Kind
going
of
to listen
are.
to this,
You
but
kind of said he's a
and
punk made bitch, which I thought I
yeah,
was harsh for you to say
my
because I disagree
second
personally.
my second favorite podcast duo, Bubba and the Bat Flip.
I wonder what they would have to say about this. I've been listening to all their
But
previews.
yeah,
Maybe
I
they'll hear
think
this.
just fading Mullins just because he had a breakout year and not wanting to pay the extra price, like it's hard to find 25 stolen bases.
It is hard to find that, yes.
And so
but if he just chooses to go a more stable route with it, as opposed to the guy who popped up literally out of nowhere. Again, I don't think it's a losing strategy to avoid the breakouts who spike up into the top 5 rounds. I'm not saying I do. I don't do it. I drafted Mullins. I've drafted Mullins twice already.
You took Ohtani Mullins.
Yeah, like hello. I did the direct opposite of that. So
and Buxton.
I'm not advocating. Yeah, I'm all about hype players at times. I don't exclusively draft them. That draft I kind of did, but honestly, the Buxton one, I had my auto on this morning just so I didn't time out in case it got to me. I was really hoping that he wasn't going to be the top guy because he was there. He was the lone hitter with a bunch of pitchers, and I should have just reordered it a little bit better because then I ended up getting him, and now I don't have a starter yet. Now, in fairness, I pick in 3 picks.
Lindor. You took
no, Lindor's the opposite of that though.
Yeah,
Lindor's a last year's bust that I love. Like he's the opposite of the other 3 guys.
I'd love this draft if I'm really interested to see how you fill it out with Ohtani because I've had a hard time pulling the trigger on Ohtani in the first round.
It wasn't easy, but I was at a point where you were too, where all the guys I was really zeroed in on.
I'm super glad you did because I really wanted either Corbin Burns or Tucker, and had you taken
would have made your decision harder.
If you had taken either of them, I would have had to take Albies,
and it would have been one of them. It was those 3 100% my consideration in that order: Ohtani, Burns, Tucker. And the reason I didn't take Tucker was because I was thinking, in fairness, I was thinking maybe Betts or Trout get to me because I thought this Salinger at Team 11 would take Cedric Mullins, but I was like, well, maybe if he doesn't go said. And then when you didn't take him, I thought maybe you weren't doing it because of you want to see like where he falls when you don't take him type of deal.
I've been getting him in the 3rd round.
And he does go in the 3rd round.
I should have thought about it more because
I get 2 picks before.
Yeah, there's too many. And Matt Williams got 2 picks too, and I know he's big on Cedric Mullins as well.
So it's 4 picks for us before you pick again.
If I had thought about it from that context of who was in my draft, I probably wouldn't have passed up on him. But I also didn't really want to start outfield.
Fair, especially if you like mid-tier outfielders, because then it's not so much that that's bad because you can never go wrong getting 2 power speed studs, but it can kind of limit you sometimes when you're trying to get your next big Tyler O'Neill type guy in those mid rounds because you already have 3 or 4 outfielders so quickly. You're like, do I take a 5th now? Do I take a 4th?
Yeah.
So I hear that. But anyway, we have to hustle here because we haven't even started on our main topic. But I loved that discussion about Albies. We're very pro Albies, and I'm very curious to hear people sound off on whether or not they think he's a viable first rounder because I think he is.
I think he is too.
All right. Potential leapers. We talked last time, hitting leapers, just guys in the mid to late rounds looking to take a big step forward. It's a bit nebulous. You can kind of define it how you want. It's a know it when you see it type of deal. So let's start with Logan Gilbert as a potential leaper. The Seattle standout arm came up last year, had a really nice debut season, had some ebbs and flows in it. You could definitely see that sort of rookie progression as he was kind of figuring things out, displayed an amazing fastball. Things had a little wonky there, so he wound up with a 4.68 ERA, but a 3.87 SIERA with a 1.17 WHIP, 25% strikeout rate, 6% walk, and 12% swinging strike in his 119 innings. This sets up nicely to go at least $160 next year, or we'll say 162 because that's what it takes to get qualified. So it looks like he should be a qualified starter this year, barring any unforeseen issues health-wise. Can the 25-year-old Logan Gilbert take a leap this year? And if so, what are you really seeing out of the right-hander in Seattle?
I think he can take a leap forward, but people are paying for him a little bit like he is, which is unfortunate. There's
There's
a
an
tax.
expectation.
Yeah.
Let me give that price. Pardon me. I should definitely set that up with the price. He is the 50 somethingth pitcher. Pardon me. Should have had that. He's the 59th pitcher. That includes relievers. I'm not going to do the count right now because that's a little bit deeper, but it's the 155th pick and 59th pitcher, including relievers for Gilbert. So, it's not a nothing pick. You're putting some draft capital in there in the 11th, 10th round area. He goes as high as 91. That's his min, but his max is 276. So those could both be outliers, and he might live in the 110 to 170 range for the most part. But either way, is it something you're willing to pay? In the draft that we did at FPAS, Bat Flip Crazy, the aforementioned Toby got him pick 131, which would have put him as the mid 40s pitcher. So what do you think with Gilbert? Is this price, are you suggesting that this is too high for you? Or
Yeah, it's a bit too high for me.
Okay.
Especially with the amount of balls he puts in the air. I do worry that the home run difficulty we saw at times last year will continue to kind of crop up. Now, Seattle's a great place to pitch. Love that. I'd like to see him rely on his curveball a little bit more. He only threw it like 7 or 8% of the time. I think it's a pretty decent pitch, and I'd like to see him throw it a little bit more. That being said, I can see him definitely taking a next step, and this is why people are willing to take him as a top 40, top 50 pitcher. I'm just not quite there with the market. So I'm going to try to get him in a league just so I can have you're on deck.
I'm on deck.
I'm going to try to get him in a league or two just because I do like the talent, and he's a fun guy to watch. But at the same time, I'm not going to – if the price continues to rise, I'm probably going to be out.
Not to call you out, but just to do a little fact check here. We have him. I have him at 50. You have him at 48 among starters, which suggests that you'd be okay with the market price because if you eliminate relievers, he's probably somewhere in that range. Is that going to facilitate a change? Now, you didn't stridently say, "Oh, I hate him. I'm not going to get Logan Gilbert." You said it's a little pricey. Is that something then that you think maybe he needs to dip down a little bit more? You've got him around. Let's see. The next 5 behind Logan Gilbert are Marcus Stroman, Lance McCullers Jr., Sean Manaea, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Patrick Sandoval, one of whom we're going to talk about here. Does it require a move down, or are you okay with where Gilbert's at? You just are being cautious about getting too many shares of him.
Yeah, I think it's more about being cautious. So let's see. And I did do a small update. I'm going to say some people in the industry, I'm going to shout out to MLB Moving Average, who has been doing kind of rebuttal podcasts where he listens to some of his favorite podcasts, and then when he doesn't like something or doesn't agree with something that isn't like, he respectfully gives a counter argument.
It was awesome. I listened to that right when he sent us the one. Sorry, I'm gonna let you finish your point, but and I actually had typed up a tweet response. It was one of those things that I didn't finish it because I wanted to do some more research. I left the tab open for like a week. And so instead of sending the tweet a week later, I just DM'd him. I said, "Hey, the rebuttal pod is a fire idea." Because again, it was very respectful. It wasn't trying to drum up clicks to say like, these people are stupid. It was like, here's 5 things around the industry I disagree with. Great way to kind of keep building the community. So I thought that was awesome. Continue with what you were saying about.
Yeah,
about
and I mean, the way he does it is very, very respectful. It's not, and we're friends. Me and
yeah, it's not trash talk. It's banter, which is fun.
He kind of turned me around on Gallen a little bit. Him and Dave McDonald have both been kind of pushing at me on Gallen, and kind of the injury risk coming into the season. And pointed out that he threw more, I think, innings than any other pitcher in the second half after he came back from that injury. So I don't know that I'm going to quite get to the market on Gallen, but I definitely pushed him up. So I've got Logan Gilbert 48. He'd be 42 if you took out all the relievers. So
okay, you did that. Thank you.
The beauty is you can just sort by the ADP on our little ranks document.
Oh yeah, great.
You can just kind of check that he's,
that's why I left that column in there. Yes.
So yeah, he's about 42nd in ADP, and I've got him about 48th. So I'm just a little bit below the market, which doesn't mean I won't get him. There'll be leagues where he drops.
Yeah, that's perfect then. I don't think that requires a move then. That checks out with your feeling on him, that you believe Logan Gilbert can take a step forward, but you're not seeking it out to say, this is one of my big leapers of the year.
I definitely want to be cautious with some of these younger guys, though, who, jumped up a lot in innings, right?
Absolutely.
There's an article recently that I can't remember, I think it might have been Bubba actually, pointed out that Max Scherzer was being interviewed and talking about, like, he's not worried about, like, kind of the more experienced arms in terms of those guys, struggling from the jump from 2020 to 2021, but some of the younger guys who haven't trained their arms as well may have some struggles. So, I want to make sure if I take a guy like Gilbert, I have a pretty safe rotation at the top to kind of pair with him.
I think that makes a lot of sense, because it's not guaranteed. I think there are going to be the avid Gilbert believers that are like, "Yo, he's ready," and it would surprise me zero if he took a massive leap.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you really, because I actually have him 50th among starters, which means I'm right there. That's a little bit behind the market, but not so much so that I can never end up with him. And because we do multiple leagues, we can always look at this through a different way of like getting shares of a guy versus investing if you're a 1 or 2 league person. And so keep that in mind. We're always talking from people who do 10, 15 leagues. We can diversify our portfolio, so to speak. And I know some people don't like when you talk about it like that. I do like thinking about it like that, though. Just breaking up how I'm getting these players, right? I don't try to get like one of everybody, but I don't want like the same 5 guys on every team either.
Mm-hmm.
You have to balance it out. So Gilbert could wind up in our portfolios, but it's not going to be something that's overstocked. Let's talk Ranger Suarez. It's been a while since we brought him up, so I want to come back to him a little bit and get a little bit more discussion on him as far as really where you're at too, because I think I've kind of made it known that I'm a bit in. I'm not fully in, whereas I don't know that anybody is, to be honest. I think a lot of the community is out though, so I would say I'm more in than the general community. I've got Ranger Suarez. Well, maybe not. I got him as my 56th pitcher, and you actually have him 47, so I'm full of crap.
Yeah.
I hate him, apparently.
Yeah, you do.
So Ranger Suarez is 64th among pitchers. Let me do the ADP thing real quick and figure out where he is there. I think it's going to be it's going to make me look way
51.
out on him. 51st pitcher. And what did I say? You had him at 47?
I have him 47, so I'm a little bit above the market.
Okay.
But he's got, I'll have to double check, and I can do that very quickly.
And I got him 56th, so I'm not way off the market, but I thought I was a little bit higher than where people were. Actually, okay, I didn't think I was higher than the market. I think I'm higher than the fantasy industry, like the circle that we run in. How about that?
And he's actually dropped in ADP from when I updated this ADP.
Doesn't surprise me, because
his ADP since the beginning of the year is 176. So he'll be a guy that which would probably drop him around. Let's see, I can actually do that real quick. That would drop him around pitcher 55, 56, something like that. I like Ranger Suarez a lot. I was really impressed by him. Like, he's not a guy that, I think often when we see guys move from the bullpen into the rotation or vice versa, we see the reliever version is the one that gets all the strikeouts, right?
Yes.
They lose them. He didn't lose anything. It's very reminiscent of Carlos Carrasco moving out of the bullpen in Cleveland into the rotation and just keeping all those gains. And I mean,
that's a good pull there.
And Philadelphia didn't baby him, man. They said, we'll let you build up a little bit, but we're going to let you go. I mean, he was pitching 7 innings. Did he pitch 9 at one point?
He had a shutout. Yep, he got a shutty. And that's what I really liked. And listen, I know like the big counter in the community has been from Nick pointing out the schedule. It was super easy, no doubt.
You only get to face who you get to face, though. Like,
that's how I feel too. And he was so exquisite that like nobody's saying he's a 136, 1.0 ERA whip combo, right? So that's the thing. Like judging him as that, well, of course not. And by the way, Nick isn't. No, he's not saying that he doesn't like him because he doesn't think he can put up a 1 whip. But he is concerned about how good the fastball was. It allowed too few homers. But again, that regression is coming, sure. But I look at like ATC at 380, 128, and I think I think Ranger Suarez can beat those marks. And those are actually the best ones are Zips, 379, 124. I think Ranger Suarez can beat those marks even. I think it can be like a mid threes with a high 1 teens, low 120s whip and a strikeout per inning type deal, 23 to 25% range. And I'm down for that. I don't know. I think you have to look at the results there and give him credit for how great he pitched, even though, yes, that level isn't sustainable, but a good level seems pretty sustainable to me.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, the swing strike rate went up last year to 11%. So kind of in line with what he was doing in terms of striking guys out. Yeah, I know it's not the best place to pitch, but Real Moto is a good catcher. He calls a good game, so I'm in on Ranger Suarez. He has got one of the widest ranges of ADP that you'll see. His min pick since the beginning of the year in DC's 94. His max pick 280.
Wow.
So
I would love to get him 280. Are you kidding
I've
me?
been in drafts where he just drops and drops and drops.
I'd be
And
jumping in there.
Yeah, I think you start seeing him go outside of like that top 200 picks, and I think he's like a perfect dart throw. Because like if he doesn't pan out at post 200, you just move on to the next guy. But
you're not really getting hurt there.
Yeah.
I think that's a big beef for some folks is how high he can go at times. And yeah, a double-digit pick, no shot for Ranger Suarez for me. That's too high. But you start getting like 150 and beyond, and I'm starting to be interested. I moved him back up. I moved back up to 48. I'd moved him down a little bit. I think maybe in reaction to all the negativity I'd seen. I was like, maybe I am a little too high. But now I'm looking at this group here. I'm like, they've got questions as well. So why don't I go with the guy that I think was so exemplary and move him back up? I actually got him back up over Gilbert.
I mean, throughout the minor leagues, he did not give up home runs. Like this is a guy like who just did not give up home runs.
Yeah,
and doesn't walk guys. And now he's added strikeouts. That like I think the biggest question is what do we think his innings total is going to be?
Yep.
But I think he gets like
160.
I was thinking like 145, 150.
That's
something
fine.
like that.
I'll take that too. Yeah. Maybe I am pushing a little high to say 160. But what did he throw 1 year? Last year 120, 110?
He threw 106 last year.
106. Okay, yeah. So I think you're right. I think I have 145, but I'll take that in that range, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Absolutely.
I was so impressed that he went from the closer to being a starter like that and pitched so well. Like when that happened, I was like, what? And I only held on to him because I'd already had him for the saves, and I was like, I'll just see how this goes. And it went so well that I was like, okay, cool. So yeah, Ranger Suarez, we like him. I understand some of the pushback to be concerned about how good he was, but I don't think anybody's really saying he's quite that good. That's just one of those.
No, if we thought he was that good,
samples.
Yeah, he would be a double-digit pick.
He'd be 20th. Yeah, he'd be like my 20th starter or something. But I don't think that. I just think he's a top 50 starter, and I think he gets credit for what he did there. Yes, it was an easy run.
If you have some innings horses.
Yeah, he's a great setup for teams like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Nick Pollock, we briefly mentioned him during that. This is one that I know he would fully agree with. Patrick Sandoval. Nick put me on Patrick Sandoval a few years ago at First Pitch Arizona. He was talking about him. He was like, whenever we go to First Pitch Arizona, we see these presentations, that Inoa does and Nick or like an Alex Chamberlain and many others. I'm just naming a couple off the top of my head. And they do these presentations, they're always going to have some gems for you, right? They're going to do something like, I made up this metric. And of course, DeGrom and Scherzer and them are at the top, but look at this guy. And you always know there's going to be a couple guys like that stand out that they want to highlight. Well, Patrick Sandoval was like that in Nick's presentation that year. And he highlighted him as somebody to keep a close eye on. Well, then the pandemic season hit and it was a disaster. He gave up a bunch of homers in 36 and 2/3 innings. It was just nothing great, except for the 13% swinging strike rate was still there. And the walk rate, there were still a few things to pluck, even from the ugly 37 innings during which Sandoval allowed a 5.65 ERA. Well, then this year happens and he took off. Now it was only for 87 innings because of health, but the strikeouts went even higher, 26% strikeout rate, 15% swinging strike rate, 3.62 ERA, 121 whip. Home runs came down to a manageable 1.1. I can live with that, not the 2.5 and 1.4 of the two samples before that. But the stuff was there and nasty for the 25-year-old lefty. He had 32 swinging strikes in a game, Nick even got a shirt made from it because that's how insane a performance like that is. That's Scherzerian type stuff. Like that's insane for Patrick Sandoval. He's the 80th pitcher off the board, pick 211. I'm in on this big time. How do you feel about Patrick Sandoval yourself?
He's got 4 pitches that he throws more than 10% of the time. They're all
Deep
good.
arsenal.
He only gave up 3 home runs in the second half. He got better as the season went on. Man, this is hard because the talent tells me this is a potential top 30 starter. But the back, man, that's
back issues are scary.
Scaring the crap out of me. Like I have him, I think 52nd right now.
Yes. You have him 53rd.
53rd.
I got him 43rd. He's the 59th starter off the board. So we're both over the market.
In a 15-teamer, I probably am not going to take him there. In a 12-teamer, or a league in which I have a large IL,
sure,
I'm going to take the gamble because there's going to be replacement value. But
I don't think the 211 pick it covers enough of the injury issue there to make you confident to take him. Like because obviously without that risk, he would be what 80 picks higher, to be honest. Maybe not 80, but like 60. I think he'd be 4 rounds higher if he didn't.
I have him in my injury tier. Like it's McCullers, Manaea, Erod, Sandoval. Like it's
that is an injury tier.
It's guys with huge upsides and injury question marks.
Yep.
And he's going way later than all of those guys. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think he is worth taking at the price because of just the upside. Like I said, if he were to throw 180 innings, I think there is a reasonable chance that he could be a top 25, top 30 starter this year. So if you're looking for that gamble, that's it. But make sure the rest of your pitching staff doesn't have those injury question marks.
Absolutely.
Because there's a chance he only throws another 80 innings.
Yeah, you don't want to be stacking up, Sandoval and Kershaw and Darvish and Scherzer as your ace type of deal. You start to see a through line there where you're like, uh-oh, what's going on there? So you got to be careful with that for sure. Totally agree. Now he didn't return, and that's
the bigger issue for me.
Sandoval did not return after the back injury.
If he had missed a month in August and came back and had a strong September, I feel really good about it. But him not returning at all, and now we have no. And now
it's tenuous. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the part that's really scaring me. I may move him down a couple spots, honestly. It doesn't mean I'm out, but I don't know how I rationalize taking him over a guy I really like in Steven Matz, and a guy I really like in Alex Wood, and a guy I really like in John Means.
Whoa. You're not going to sit here and talk about Patrick Sandoval's health and tell me you're going to take Alex Wood.
Alex Wood finished the year strong.
That's
the difference. That's the difference.
But that's in the short term. We still have to look at the body of work on Alex Wood and his health.
We're looking at the body of health now.
The actual injuries body. Still count. They still count.
And that's why if I knew that
he only threw $138.
If I knew Alex Wood was going to be healthy this year, he'd be much higher than this.
That's fair. If I could sprinkle a little bit on both Alex's, Cobb and Wood, I would have him 25 picks. Yeah. I put them together 68 and 69. Speaking of, by the way, in a 12-teamer, get pick 9 to have pick 69, just so you know. So I'm putting KDS at 9 for the main event. So I can have pick 69.
I'm pretty sure you do that in a 15-teamer too, right?
15-team, that's what I said.
Oh,
if I said 12, I meant 15.
Yeah,
in a 15-teamer, get pick 9 to have pick 69 because I have pick 69 right now that I need to make.
Oh, and are you on the clock?
Yeah, it's good.
Who are you taking?
Or no, I already took pick 69.
Why would you take a 9th rounder in the 5th round?
You're such a piece of garbage.
I'm on the clock.
Now you pick, you dummy.
Oh.
Why don't you pick another catcher, clown? Actually, I dare you to pick another catcher. Take Grandal. Have the baddest baddest ass catchers ever. I'm only partly kidding, by the way. I'm like egging you on, but like that would actually be kind of sick.
No, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something even sicker.
Let's see. Oh, that is sick. I love that. Yep.
Mondesi in the 5th round. I'll take that.
Tucker, Wheeler, Iglesias, Real Muto, Mondesi. Like you got a bit of everything going. Like you're covering everything, including your
Mm-hmm.
risk. You got some risk in there,
Well,
but
especially because I know, like, again, this is the whole thing. It's we were talking about earlier with Albie. It's like I can look at the board and go, okay, there's Logan Webb still on the board, Freddie Peralta still on the board, Jack Flaherty still on the board, Musgrove still on the board, Jose Barrios still on the board.
that's why I took Gallegos, by the way.
One of those guys is going to make it back to me in the
And I'm
next
hoping one
round.
gets back to me too. So don't take mine, because I mean I know I'm discussing with somebody who's picking ahead of me, but you're going to take one whether I say this or not. But I was looking at the same exact thing of like, I need a starter. You didn't even need a starter as much. You have an ace in Wheeler, but I don't have an ace. But I was like, Gallegos has a much better chance. Jokes aside, I know you like this Coleman 9th rounder, but with the way closers are going, Romano just went. And if you don't think Romano and Gallegos are the same.
Well, this is why I took Iglesias in the 3rd. I just wasn't messing with it.
And he's a lockdown 40 guy. But no, I like the Mondesi pick a lot. So I have Ohtani, Mullins, Lindor, Buxton, Gallegos. You have Tucker, Wheeler, Iglesias, Real Muto, Mondesi. Anyway, those are a little draft update there. We're in the Triple Play Fantasy League. It's been a lot of fun. And then I got to make this number 1 pick. All right, so bets are Albies, number 1, 10th pick overall.
Albies.
Should I do an Albies build? Let's do it. And then let's send Jeff Zimmerman into a tizzy when I do this. He's going to be like, why did you take Albies in the first round?
Take Albies.
I did it. Nice.
All right,
we got to move. Moving forward, I'm doing an Albies build. Next up on our board is Joe Ryan. Now, I've kind of given my thoughts on him. I don't want to say ad nauseum, but we're approaching ad nauseum territory. Everyone knows I'm big on him, and the main reason I am is I think he's fully formed. Basically, he comes to the league ready to go. I don't think there's a ton of development that needs to happen or that will happen. I think he is who he is. He came up last year for those 26 2/3 with a 30% strikeout rate, 5% walk rate. Few too many homers at 1.4, which kept the ERA up at 4.05, but with a .79 WHIP. He did not have major home run issues in the minors. In the high minors, it started to trickle up near 1. I can live with a 1.0 because then he can still have a sub-3 ERA, especially with the strikeouts and walk that he has. He has an insane fastball. Not that it's insanely fast. It's 91, but the deception and movement on it for Joe Ryan is incredible. So normally you'd look at 91 and be like, this guy has no margin for error. Be careful. That's just not how it's been with him. He's had amazing strikeout and walk rates coming up through the minors. This is one of those guys that I think comes to the league basically fully formed. I think he can put up 160 innings of a mid to high 3s ERA and a really, really good whip. He's one of those guys. Think of Joe Musgrove before the breakout, when he would always have those great whips and then the ERA would be a little bit wobbly. I think he can beat the ERAs that Joe Musgrove put up when he was in the low 4s and beat that down to like a 3.7. But I love Joe Ryan. What say you, good sir?
I like Ryan a lot. And I agree with you in terms of I think he is fully formed. I like the fastball. The homers, man, the homers are a problem.
Small sample, dude. 26 innings. Relax.
Yeah.
It was 1.0. I mean, he had 9 innings in AAA with Minnesota, 57 with Tampa Bay. So you add it all up, it's probably like a 1-1 or 1.08 or something that he had in AAA this year. Like, again, if you're not walking anybody, and when you have this kind of command or control heavy profile, we've seen this with guys. His teammate Bailey Ober kind of fits this mold too. That you can have a little bit of a home run issue for sure by kind of having more control than command. We've talked about this a lot.
I'd like to see him maybe, be okay putting a guy on base.
Yeah, we talked about this before. This was the Bieber thing, and he learned. I kind of trust that he can get better there. Like,
I think that's in the range outcomes. I think the thing I like about Ryan, and we're talking about a lot of guys who have like severe upside, but also some real downside.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way about Ryan necessarily. Like, I have him as my 60-something pitcher. I think he's probably like he tops out as like a top 40 guy, but like I don't think he's going to be any worse than like a top 70 guy. Like I feel like he's one of those he's not like a. I don't think he's a guy like people are going to go ooh at the draft table, but I think they're
Yeah.
going to look back at the end of the season and go, this was a really good, fifth or sixth starter.
So you don't see a leap into stardom, but you think he can
No,
be a pick value based on where he's going and
yeah,
just give you some solid quality
hmm
innings.
yeah. I think he's going to like return like an extra like $3, $4, $5 worth of value from where you draft him. He's not going to be a $10 extra or $12 extra earner. But yeah, if he earns 3, 4, $5, I think you're gonna be happy with it. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with picks like that,
I agree.
especially when you feel like the floor is pretty safe. That Minnesota rotation is atrocious. He's gonna get to continue to pitch no matter what happens. Like he could give up 10 home runs in his first two starts, and they're gonna be like, well, we got nothing else.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
he and Ober could go through that. Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober
it's
could
a
go
good
through that.
division to pitch in.
Exactly.
For a fly ball guy, it's a really, really good outfield defense, which I do think, helps him.
And then he gets to go to Comerica and Kaufman, two parks that shouldn't exacerbate the home run issue. Now, be
Yep.
careful in Chicago, of course. What about while we're talking Minnesota pitchers? Do you have any love for Dylan Bundy on the free price?
I guess
Because he was
it's
so bad
free.
last year. Like
Yeah.
he is pick 447. I mean, it's free.
I mean, I've always been the anti Dylan Bundy guy.
I know.
So,
And so I was wondering if you've changed now that he's nothing.
yeah, I'll take a dart throw in like the 40.
Slider's still really good, dude. I was such a sucker for him.
And again, Minnesota's rotation is so bad, like he's gonna just stay
he's
in
the
that
ace.
rotation.
Exactly.
Like I think they're just hoping they can, do something and flip him at the deadline.
That would be ideal for them if they don't figure a way to like piece this together and get back in the mix. They have
Their
enough
team is
talent.
not that bad.
Exactly. That's why I said that. Like if all of a sudden Ryan Ober and Bundy are like capable and they find a decent back end guy to eat some innings, the offense is certainly good enough to be a contender again. Without especially like bring in Jose Miranda, get him some at bats, see if Kirilloff and Larnach go off, Buxton stays healthy in a dream world. I mean, there's things that could happen. But anyway, Joe Ryan, so you don't see quite as high, but you're not out on him. I still think like with that super, super spicy whip, that if he can keep the homers in check, sub 1, then he can make that big jump via the ERA. But for now, plan on him as somebody who can help stabilize your whip. So if you've got some whip issues and you're taking some guys that have like a 360 whip, or excuse me, a 360 ERA, but like a 130 whip, take Joe Ryan to balance those guys out and enjoy that with a little bit of upside. All right, next up is Huascar Inoa, who is somebody that I find super intriguing here. And I'm curious by the market and how they feel about him, because it doesn't seem like they're that interested in Huascar Inoa. He's been trending down. He had a weird season because he came out, he was dominating, then he fought a wall and the wall won when he punched it. Or table, or whatever it is. He hit something in anger, broke his hand, really, really derailed what was a breakout season. Ended up, they won the World Series. Imagine if they'd had him. Maybe they would have had an easier road through, but he was basically unavailable to them because he wasn't great down the stretch, and then he wasn't pitching in the playoffs for them. But there was a lot to like at that beginning portion of the season with his fastball slider combo. Now, it is a 2-pitch mix, but he wound up with a 4.05 ERA and a 1.11 whip and 100 strikeouts in 91 innings. He's 24 years old. Can Huascar Inoa make a real leap this year?
If he's healthy, I think the biggest question mark for me is that shoulder healthy? I mean, he was taken off the postseason roster because of that. So
yeah, which not related to the.
Yeah, I mean, I drafted him at FPAS prior to him being taken off the roster, and felt fantastic about it. I really like him a lot. I'd really like to see a third pitch develop.
Yeah,
I think that changeup is good enough. And he did start throwing it more at times. So he had a few games where he threw it 10% plus, 15% of the time, stuff like that. So yeah, if he's healthy, I think he is a really, really good gamble where he's going. Again, he's in my injury tier of guys for that reason, and you just can't take too many of those guys.
That's fair. That's fair. You got him 58th. He's a
Mm-hmm.
67th starter off the market. I got him 42nd. I got him up there with Patrick Sandoval. So I got him in an injury tier too. It's just a higher injury tier than you.
Yeah.
I have Kershaw and Noah Sandoval.
If I knew he's healthy, he'd probably be up towards that spot. But and originally in my ranks, my first couple runs of ranks, that's where I did have him. But the shoulder, yeah, I gotta push him down. Like, because
I understand. Like I can't push back too much on that and say, don't have any caution. But I like him. I wish we could get some more clarity on where he's at. And obviously we're gonna have to wait on that because it looks like spring is going to be delayed on some level. So where we would normally get information on that maybe in like a week when pitchers and catchers start reporting, it will be delayed, and that's awful and annoying, and I hate it. All right, next up. Now we're going to a team here, and it's a team that loves producing pitching leapers. They've got guys breaking out left and right, and these guys have all made a little bit of noise, but I want to know who might take it to the next level next year from Cleveland. And they have 4 candidates here, right? Bieber's at the top by himself, but then their other 4 guys are all guys who they have their believers, and their believers think that they're going to be amazing. And then they have their detractors who say, this guy's no good. Like these can be some divisive guys. It's Cal Quantrill, Zach Plesac, Aaron Savale, and Tristan McKenzie. 4 Cleveland Guardian pitchers. Who makes the leap for you? Who's your favorite here to take a big, big step forward in 2022?
A big step forward?
Yeah, like a leap, a jump.
Because, well, I mean, because that's, depends on like what you mean by it, because the one I like the most is Quantrill. But it's not a big leap. He just needs to repeat what he did last year.
That would be a big leap, though.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm okay with that. I'm not saying he has to like better his nut. Like he had a 2.89 ERA and a 1.18 WHIP. For him, a breakout would, for me, I think even a leap would be just basically doing a low 3s ERA for 180 innings with that WHIP. I think he doesn't need to best his 2.89 ERA.
Yeah, I think he's like a mid 3s ERA guy with that kind of WHIP, like a 120 WHIP.
Like proving it and saying last year was real would be the leap for him. It's a little bit of a different scenario. And like I said, these guys have each had some taste of success, and that's a pretty big sample of success, 150 innings for Cal Quantrill. So yeah, I would define his leap. It's a little bit different, but it would be like here last year was very legit. Here's a mid 3s ERA for 180 innings.
Yeah, I think the only guy that I'm completely out-ish on, and I don't know that I'm even completely out on him, is Savale.
Oh, no, I think it's Plesac. Yeah,
Plesac is so... Oh, yeah, I guess it... But he's going super late, too, isn't he?
He's going 85th, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, the nice thing about Plesac is I just think he's going to pitch a lot. I should probably bump him up a little bit.
Yeah, I got him at 78, and I wouldn't even say I love him. I just think he's going to pitch a ton.
You're just going to get a lot of innings from Plesac.
And it should be with a good WHIP, even if the ERA struggles because of the homers.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what happened to all those strikeouts we saw in 2020.
I think they were always, it was just a hot run. It was never quote unquote real.
Yeah. Probably.
I mean, look at the competition he was facing, and in the pandemic season, and going only in the Central. Tristan McKenzie, we know he's kind of the most talented in the group. It's about health with him. What's your outlook on him? Where do you, I think we talked about him somewhat recently, so we don't have to go too much.
If we could sprinkle the dust on him, not to,
I'm running out of health dust. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I only have a couple droplets left for him.
Because, I mean, he's the one who I could really see, like, jumping up into that ace-type player.
Yeah.
Like, he has ace-type skills, but he's built like you, which is
literally
a problem.
Like, on it, I don't know what his height and weight are currently, but on the websites where they're listed, 6'5", 170 is literally me.
Yeah. So
I
love him. When he is healthy and on the mound, and it seems like this is going to be the year where Cleveland stops kind of messing with him and just let him actually pitch in the majors.
Let's see what we got. Yep.
As opposed to just sending him back down to the minors all the time. So, yeah, I mean, I think I haven't really ended up with many of them. Quantrill I've ended up with a bunch already because he's just going way lower than I've got where I've got him ranked. But I think I want to get some more McKenzie shares. I think I want to take a shot here or there on McKenzie just because the upside's so great. But again, another one of these guys, you can't draft him and then draft Patrick Sandoval and then draft Alex Wood. You've got to just you've just got to make your pick and go, this is the guy for this draft.
Yeah, yep. Because he's going 232 for McKenzie, which covers the injury risk. That's why he's so cheap. But if you stack those guys up, you're going to wake up on like May 3rd with 4 red suitcases to 4 key starters that like, how'd this happen? It's like, well, you drafted 4 super high injury risk guys. And injury risk, we talk about this a lot too, where it's like, it's hard to define exactly how high it is versus a guy who's relatively healthy. He can get hurt too. But, somebody like McKenzie who's had such chronic injuries that there is heightened risk. A name to remember in Cleveland, Cody Morris, minor leaguer, could be their next big thing. Had nasty numbers this past year at triple and double A. Huge strikeout rate, passable walk rate, nasty swinging strike rate, super difficult to hit. He's 25 years old. He could make a big jump next year too. That's Cody Morris. I still have a little bit of intrigue on Eli Morgan and Sam Hentges too. The freaking Cleveland Guardians, man, they got pitching for days. And because some of these guys are risky, it is good to know that they have some backups there that can come in and be the next guys if a McKenzie gets hurt or anybody else. By the way, he's not the only one who has injury risk. All of them do because they're pitchers, and that's what pitchers do. They get hurt. All right, last one here. We're shifting to the closer, the mid-round breakout closer. These guys are all going around where those starters were. So I just want you to pick one if you have one. If you, again, a suitable answer is I don't think any of these guys really take a leap, but you might like one. Camilo Duvall for your Giants, Joe Barlow for Texas, Scott Barlow for Kansas City, or Gregory Soto for Detroit. Those are either the named closers in the case of Soto. AJ Hinch said he's going to be our guy to start, or the expected closers as for the Barlows and Duvall. Who do you got, if anybody?
I'm not drafting any of these guys.
You're not. You're just out on the group.
I mean, I think the right answer is probably Duvall, though Joe Barlow is somewhat interesting just because the rest of that Texas bullpen is pretty god awful, and he was pretty darn good last season, and it's a good place to pitch. So I think I will probably have Joe Barlow on more of my teams than any of these other guys. But if you're shooting for a guy to end up as a top 10, top 5 closer this year, Duvall is probably the right answer because the skills are so amazing when he's on. I just don't know that I trust that he's going to be the guy. I think that
exactly.
I just think there's too many other arms there. It's not like don't trust Kapler, because I think Kapler proved to us that he will go to a guy and stick with it. I just don't know that it's going to be Duvall.
Yeah, I don't know that we can promise that it is either. We don't have any clarity there. You mentioned Joe Barlow. The other Barlow, I got some pushback. I had Joe ahead of Scott, and I got some pushback in my ranking about Scott is the better Barlow was the comments. And I looked and I'm like, I can get behind that though. Scott Barlow, you talk about, good place to pitch, not a ton of competition. There's some guys there that could definitely do it, but that might be like a don't fix what isn't broken thing. Scott Barlow got 16 saves last year with a 30% strikeout rate, 2.42 ERA, and a 1.20 whip. Whip running a little high because of his walk rate mostly, but he didn't allow homers, 0.5 homer per 9 rate. Josh Stomont's there, and they're always seemingly cultivating quality relievers. So it's not like there's no competition, but Barlow did his thing. He's 29 years old. I'm intrigued by Scott Barlow, and it was because my comments section put me on him a little bit more when I was looking at it after I posted, and I had Joe Barlow ahead. They said maybe Scott, and I had him 2021, so it wasn't like how dare you diss Scott Barlow. It was just that they thought he was the better of the Barlow brothers, and they're not actually brothers, by the way.
They should be.
But they should be. Let's make them brothers.
Yeah, I could see Scott. I really just don't want to play in this tier that much. Like this,
and that's fair. That's like you've been getting Iglesias a bit already. I know he's kind of your go-to guy among the elites. What do you do after that though? When you get your established elite, what is your game plan for saves in these like draft and hold scenarios where you got to get everything at once?
Finnegan, Trevino, Ian Kennedy. those kind of guys.
Ian Kennedy's your spec to get a job somewhere, right?
Yeah, I think he's this year's Mark Melanson.
Okay.
The guy who comes in and just like,
I think Mark Melanson is this year's Mark Melanson too, by the way.
That too. That's it.
But he goes a lot higher. Ian Kennedy is dirt cheap, and if he gets a job somewhere, and he has that capital C closer, which we roll our eyes at, but it's still valuable because managers and GMs
I think Kennedy probably ends up in San Diego.
Could see that. He's been there before.
Yeah, takes over that kind of role or a role similar to it. So, yeah, I mean, I would rather wait and take a shot on a guy that I feel a little bit more confident is going to hold the job all year, or just is way cheaper than these other guys that are kind of mid-tier options that I just don't really trust that much.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think during the playoffs or toward the end of the season when he was beasting, I said I can't wait to take Camilo Duvall in the second round or whatever. Yeah. I think I did the same tweet.
I'm surprised the price hasn't gone up any more than it has. Like I really thought.
I know. I thought he was going to be gross.
I thought he was going to be going around like the Will Smiths of the world and things like that. But for to fantasy community's credit, they have not pushed him up insanely. It's just I don't know. I don't want to invest in someone I don't know is going to be the closer, and that's the issue with Duvall.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing right now that we can't promise that. By the way, I did a similar tweet last year for Sixto Sanchez, like when he was popping off, and so I just have to stop. Thankfully, I didn't hurt Camilo Duvall, but like every time I say I can't wait to draft these guys way too early, they end up. Oh, wow. I didn't see that. Sorry, I didn't see that Gerald Williams died at 55 years old. That's brutal. But anyway, yeah, Camilo Duvall, I was joking thinking that he would be super, super expensive. He's actually been pretty fairly priced. And yet I tend to agree with you where I don't think I'm really diving in on this pool of closer either. I like so many of those starters that we just talked about. They're all going around him. And I want to have somebody before we get to that group. And then I think I want to go play in the later tiers as well, similar to you, maybe not the exact same guys, but those same types of guys. And Dinelson Lamet's going to close in San Diego.
Could. He'd probably be a good closer.
But they might just sign somebody and kind of keep him as a starter. Anyway, that's going to be it. We hit the time goal. Without even with tangents, we were able to even have some tangents and we hit it. But Justin, great speaking with you about these potential leapers and Ozzie Albies as a first rounder. Let us know what you think on all that, y'all. Ozzie Albies, you taking him in the first round? Who do you like to make a big leap? And would you take any of those closers? Hit us up on Twitter at Justin Mason FWFB at Spore, and we'll be back later this week. Justin, take care.